Is Colorado going to the Big 12, or are they not going to the Big 12? There's been all kinds of smoke surrounding this issue, but then late last week, reports started surfacing that the Pac-12 could be inching closer to a media deal. So maybe the smoke surrounding Colorado coming to the Big 12 isn't as thick as we thought. But I'm bringing a special guest on that would know more about this than I would, who's much closer to the situation than me. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Couz, and I'm here today to serve you up a double shot of top-shelf college football content. And the reason it's a double shot is because I'm joined by a special guest, Sean Keeler, who is a columnist for the Denver Post. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing good, Justin. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Just to let everybody know, Sean is on a commute today, but he was nice enough to give us a few minutes of his time to talk Colorado and all the Big 12 smoke that's out there, and then some other topics if we have time. Obviously, with the NBA Finals going on, Sean is a very busy guy. So let's dig right in, Sean. First of all, thank you for your time. And second of all, last week we all heard the rumors, or actually we've been hearing for several weeks now, that Colorado is looking to move potentially to the Big 12 because the Pac-12 can't get a media deal done. Well, at the end of last week, it looked like that might be a little bit of, that smoke may not be as heavy, so to speak, when we started hearing about maybe there's a grant of rights agreement already in place with the Pac and all this. So as someone who covers the Colorado team, what are you hearing on your end? Are you hearing anything?
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to. I'll say this: the athletic director, Rick George, has some more friendly media he likes to kind of poke around with, and he floated we want to be in the Pac-12, but we're keeping all our options open soundbite, and it's very similar to something that Colorado Chancellor said in April. I want to say USA Today, and their party line it's shifting a little, but they're sort of on I think they're honest about this. Their company stance is, man, we want to stay, but we're keeping all our options open because this has taken an awfully long time. I think the grant of rights deal was kind of understood. There's been a handshake deal for months, but they keep saying, we're waiting to see the number, we're waiting to see the number, we're waiting to see the number.
Right.
A, when is that number coming? Because, we're up against the San Diego State deadline for expansion. And B, what is that number? What is good enough to make specifically Colorado and Arizona want to stay? Because those two seem to be the ones that have had convos with the Big 12 and would have the most, I guess, four corners interest that way.
Right. So, the one thing I took away of the grant of rights reports are this. Yeah, it's all great to have a grant of rights agreement, verbal agreement, but does that really mean anything if there's no deal to attach it to?
No, I'd agree, and I think that's the thing. And talking to a few other both CU, I'll call them CU for shorthand, folks. If we're going to be in the same family again,
that's right.
That's the name for Colorado. So
right.
I've talked to some CU alums and some national types who followed this as well. And they're also not terribly impressed with the news that's come out of the Pac-12 side of things. I'll tell you what, if you're a media nerd, and I don't know how many of your audience are this way, it's been, because we're kind of in the middle, literally and figuratively, of this geographically as well.
Right.
It's a little bit like MSNBC against Newsmax, of sort of one side is getting Brent Yormark's version of events, and the other side is getting George Kliakov's version of events, or they're openly pro-Pac-12 because they don't want to lose a job. And if this league goes away, their job might go away. And I understand that, and I respect that, but it's hard to get point. It's hard to get there's really objective reason. That's why it's gotten so vitriolic to some degree on Twitter, too. And
right.
Twelve-on is the term they throw at folks
right.
who are hard Pac-12. And is there a similar term for Pac-12 heads? Or are they just hippies? Is that what they throw back at them?
I don't know, man. It's gotten.
I don't think we have a underdog in this fight.
Right.
But I've never seen, like, openly, it feels like media members, like old newspaper wars. I don't know how old man you are, but there used to be, New York still kind of has it, but they're just going away the way the industry has gone away. But you just get guys writing something from a competing source just to refute what a competitor had gotten 6 hours earlier.
Yeah.
And if you wanted, I think literally this Big 12, Pac-12, CU Arizona discussion is the most old school newspaper war thing I've ever seen. I'm old, so I love it because it reminds me of that.
Right.
But it's hard to get the truth out of that because, like everything, it's probably somewhere in the middle.
Right. And that's what I've been saying all along. My prediction, I predicted on my show, I can make predictions because I'm not a quote unquote, credential media guy. Right. So I've been predicting all along that I think Colorado will end up moving. But after last week, I started to feel a little bit less confident about it because of the whole grant of rights thing. But then the more I dig into it, I don't know that meant a whole lot at the end of the day. I think that was just some PR out of Pac-12 country to try to – they needed some positive news, right? So they decided to put that out.
There hasn't been any. I mean, if you're a Pac-12 stand, and there's got to be a more polite term than that, but let's just go with that. If you're a Pac-12 stand, you're clutching at straws. I mean, you're trying to make something out of nothing when you have a commissioner on the other side who is doing PR like, Dale Earnhardt laps around you. I mean, you're just getting rocked by this. I mean, your mark is playing that game as well as the network game, frankly, just 15 times better than George Kliavkoff on the Pac-12 side. I mean, they're just getting housed.
Yeah.
And so, they go to their mouthpieces, and I'm not going to name names, but you know who they are, and they will say, look, can you do this? Or do you know this? Now, I know that's also happening on the Big 12 side.
Right.
And I actually know some of those guys a lot better, and I like them, and I respect them, and I've actually been kind of curious. Again, I go back to the political argument, why they're, basically mouthpiecing for these respective commissioners. But they're comfortable with that, and it's their paycheck, not mine. But it does really muddle things, doesn't it? To your point where you're just trying to figure out, hey, do I got to figure out how to fly to Denver in a few years?
Right.
And how do I afford that? Or drive it, God forbid.
Yeah.
How do I make that work? I don't think they're serving, and to your point, I don't think either league is serving their fans very well in this process because you have a possibility on the Big 12 side, and I don't know this to be gospel, that you're getting a lot of people such as yourselves, you're getting their hopes up.
Right.
They're saying, this is your team. This is, your blood. This is you. Do I got to go to Tucson and Denver? How do I make this work? Or do I have to go to stores, which is probably an easier drive for y'all, frankly, but not a great one.
Right.
Regardless, and the Pac-12 could I mean, they're so wounded right now that even if, and I think this is a possibility, the status quo remains, at least with CU and Arizona, like that they don't come.
Right.
What is the long-term future of this league? Is adding, and this is the least of y'all's concern, but as a college football and basketball fan, just adding San Diego State and maybe Boise, maybe not, maybe SMU, maybe Deion Sanders wants to be in Texas. Let's be clear about that. Does that, if Oregon and Washington get a call from who or anybody,
right?
I mean, what's to stop the ACC from saying we'd like to kick at 10 o'clock Eastern? So, hey, Oregon and Washington, we like academics too. Join us. And you just think, well, you can't say that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard because everything now is stupid.
Right.
That I say that as full disclosure, I'm a Big 8 kid who's a Big 10 alum, so very Midwest roots. I'm literally a flyover guy. All of this at USC and UCLA, like Oklahoma, Texas, SEC. Okay, you go, yeah. I mean, Big 10 was courting Texas hard, like for years. So geography has meant nothing in this arrangement. Having covered the Big 12 a bit when y'all joined, that kind of threw geography out the window.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
So the opposite happening with USC and UCLA in the Big Ten. I think I've probably still not recovered from that one because it's the most WTF of
right.
This is a TV. Fox did this.
Right.
No one, and that's probably true. They
Yeah.
just went, yeah, here you go. And also, there's the theory that Fox wants to kill the Pac-12 competing for that 10
right.
o'clock slot.
Right.
Which having USC and UCLA join would be a fabulous first blow in that direction. So it's all conspiracy theories, smoke, and finger pointing, and what have you. And I think I just go down to, for me here, it's about the numbers. And I know we were going to get into this, but let's open Pandora's box now.
Let's do it.
The Big 12's per school numbers, 42 on average, between 41 and 46.
Right.
Split the difference, say 43. What everyone keeps telling me is CU, Colorado is waiting for that Pac-12 number, air quotes, to come back in the terms of the annual payout. They want that number to be within 10% of 42 million. So that's 38, 37-ish per year. Given that I think they're only going to make 33 this year and 33 next, because you have to take 4 million off their 36 million or 37 million estimated because of the Comcast overpayment.
Right.
You have to take that thing out like taxes and run it out. So they're only running at 33, 32. So again, what is that number that makes Phil DeStefano, the chancellor in Colorado, happy and makes the regions happy? Although Phil's going to make the big call on that, and he's gone quiet on me, of course, which gets my rabbit ears up.
Right.
I don't think without ESPN and Fox, or at least one of the two, and both of those are hairy for the Pac-12. And I give Yomar credit because he could see that pie was going to shrink, and he got in. He got what he could when he could, and the Pac-12 kind of sat on their hands and went, "Well, we've got 10 o'clock Eastern. We'll be fine." Whoops, no. Hey, are they going to get to 37 million with, say, ESPN, NBC, Comcast, Apple, and or Amazon, and or a mystery over-the-air Ion? I don't think it'll be Sinclair now, but who knows? All this mystery stuff they're throwing out. Can they get to 37 million per year with that? Yeah, but I'll bet a lot more of that is streaming, and a lot more of that is more streaming than the fans and the coaches are going to be comfortable with.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought the numbers up, because I was going to talk about last week at Washington State's board meeting, which was aired on YouTube, I think. So it's not, it was a public meeting.
Yeah.
Their president Schultz mentioned he's expecting, now he's honest. I haven't seen the numbers yet, but he's expecting to hit around the 31 to 32 million dollar number and I think that was just for the TV portion. That didn't count the NCAA and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So he said they expect to be flat. Do you think he's overly optimistic in your opinion, or do you think they actually have a legit chance to do that?
Well, Kirk Schultz came there from K-State, I think. So I covered him there a little bit in my Fox Sports days.
Right.
With 12, so I think he's a straight shooter. He may be even a more of a straighter shooter than the Pac-12 offense would be comfortable with.
Right.
Especially with those layoffs and hiring freeze.
Right.
That they come in and just flat out said, yeah, because they're like, they're number 11 or number 12 with the 12 with Oregon State, who are like, their interest is in this surviving too, because no one's coming to get them. They're kind of glorified Mountain West.
Right.
And just want to stay in the Power 5 with that designation. 31-32. And if the reports are true and ESPN has to increase its payout to the Big 12 for adding Colorado and or Arizona and or UConn, it's per school. That's Power 5. I don't know if UConn would count, but CU and Arizona would count. And then that deal is elastic in that they have to keep adding to the total so that it still averages out at 41-42,
Mhm.
correct? For every pack, so you don't lose your cut of the pie. If you say West Virginia,
Right.
you get the 42.
Correct.
Then ESPN's got to come up with whatever 20 more million,
Yes.
or whatever it is.
Right.
If it's any other Power 5 member, man, that's a $10 million difference. I think that's unless they've worked out a cut because there's going to be unequal revenue distribution, which seems likely given that now they have to treat Oregon and Washington the way the Big 12 treated Texas,
Mhm.
for especially before y'all got in there. I mean, I go back to the first 12 years of the league, which just all went to heck. You know,
Yeah.
there's stronger words than that, obviously, which obviously, you know, that West Virginia came on the other side of that, stabilized it, TCU as well. And watching the original Big 12 kind of go to pot, so to speak, that everyone kept pointing to Texas and the unequal revenue. TCU even pointed in joining the Pac-12, going, hey, we're getting the same money as USC and UCLA, and that's why we're doing this. We never would have got that with Texas. Well, you're not going to get that unless you join the Big 12, ironically.
Right.
Because there's no way you're keeping Oregon and Washington happy when they're just begging to get in the Big 10.
Yeah.
To not make it appealing, which surprised me that it wasn't, because again, just for any kind of trying to apply any logic to the Big 10 or trying to, I'm like, if you're going to go full West, just don't be like Dodgers Giants in the 1950s. Make a whole pod out there. Or take 8 of the teams, create an act, be truly national and create a Pac-8 again. And I think CU would be great there. Whether they take them, I don't know. But it doesn't feel, back to our original point, it doesn't feel like Oregon and Washington are long for this if they could find something better. Because I don't think, if it's $31 million for Colorado versus $42 million in the Big 12, I'm not a smart man, but I could do a lot with $11 million. I figure out a way to keep Deion Sanders happy.
Yeah, a great point. And like you said earlier, I don't know if my listeners caught it, but you said earlier, Deion does want to be in Texas.
Yep.
Right.
And Florida.
Right. And
the great conundrum for your Colorado is kind of this is not going to shock anyone. Colorado is weird, brother. And here's, I don't know how much you guys have gotten into this. Speaking inside baseball,
Mhm.
Colorado, 11 to 12% of their student body is from the state of California. It has always been the easternmost arm of the Colorado-UC system. The joke, it was UC Boulder.
I got you.
It's true, and it was that way back with Barnett and Bill McCartney and
Right.
Glory days. It's always been a West Coast safety school.
Gotcha.
If that makes any sense.
It does.
Because of that, culturally, all their alumni, and there's a point to this. I know I'm rambling, but there's a point to this. And it's the conundrum for Colorado. All their alumni money, and their academic political interests are west of Denver.
Right.
All that money. I mean, they're not a national school like Notre Dame or Stanford or whatever, but they're very much a regional one. Except they're not. Their alums aren't really in Texas and Florida and New York and Boston or DC. They're in Phoenix, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, et cetera, and obviously Denver as a big chunk of that. So their political interest and instinct is to go west whenever they can. Now, how has that been for them in football?
Yeah, it hasn't worked out very well.
No, it's not. So their football interest, you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I do.
Would need to be in Florida and Texas ASAP.
Yeah.
Would need to play games against UCF and TCU and SMU, whomever.
Right.
It's be in those footprints on a regular basis again, football-wise. They have missed Texas terribly. Now, then it becomes another conundrum, which the argument is, well, if you have Deion Sanders, he can recruit, Neptune and Mars, and it doesn't matter where you play. he'll get Texas kids to come here. That's true to a degree, but you make that argument a lot better when it's on the schedule on a regular basis.
Right.
And they have scheduled, as they have TCU this year, they have scheduled old Big 12 friends, not just for nostalgia, because, Nebraska is a war.
Right.
And that's ultimately what I kind of wish the Big Ten would. Selfishly, as a Big Ten guy, full disclosure, I'm like, oh, just get Colorado. Colorado, Nebraska needs to be every year.
Yeah.
It just needs to be.
Yeah.
It's good for everybody. It's money. The national people get excited. We get nostalgic and cute. Nebraska has, lost Oklahoma, lost everything. But if they had CU still, it's close enough and regional enough. It's a war. It's fun.
Right.
It's a fun league. It's good. And CU wants that. I think the alumni over 40 want that too. But the ones under 40, I don't know so much if they care about football. But you can make that recruiting argument with Prime a lot easier if you're in a league that goes into, where Prime's house is, i.e.
Right.
Dallas.
Right.
And you see where it's a tug of war, and you could make a pretty compelling argument either way and kind of stand on your feet. And I think the chancellor, Phil DeStefano, really, he does not want to divorce the Pac-12. The academic side does not. This has, they're an AAU school. They and then they're they want to be they were the Berkeley of the Big 8 and then the Berkeley of the Big 12.
Right.
Both was. Again, it's weird. It's a fun weird, but it's weird.
Right.
But they also, in joining up with Berkeley and Stanford, they were just another Berkeley, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They weren't unique anymore.
Right.
And there's the argument, and my compatriot Mark Hisla, who's been here since 84, 83, he's a lifer in this market.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I told them, you do this, your professors may love it, and you may enjoy going to Stanford cocktail parties, but it's going to kill football because you're going to lose Texas.
Yeah.
And you're going to be out of the regions where the best players are south of the border, and they will not see you. And then when you go to the Pac-12 network, if that doesn't land with a distributor, you will disappear to 2/3 of the country. What happened? They disappeared to 2/3 of the country. And football went away.
Yeah.
I mean, nationally, until I moved here, I joked, I said, I saw you guys in the 2016 Pac-12 game on Fox, and I hadn't watched a Buff game in 7 years.
Yeah.
6 years since they joined. 2/3 of their games were put to that network that nobody could get.
Yeah.
So I think if any of us objectively, and I can look at this objectively, I didn't go to CU or Colorado State, a Midwest kid. I think the business decision would be to rejoin the Big 12.
Yeah.
Would be the logical business. I'm just using the logic
Mm-hmm.
side.
Right.
You've got 6 years. You've got 6 years extension with ESPN and Fox. You got control of that part of the time zone. I heard someone said to me, "Oh, well, maybe CU." This might have been a Buff so long we tried to justify the Big 12 again, because again, I think everybody over 40 wouldn't mind that, because the last decade and a half has been painful. That way, their memories are getting their tails kicked by Utah. They know time and time again.
Yeah.
And it's vanishing to the point where they basically wrote Deion Sanders a blank check. Well, you got to pay for that blank check, and I think your money is more secure in the Big 12 going forward than it is in the Pac-12, considering that the third and fourth quality teams that will become the 1 and the 2 are going to have their own temptations in Oregon and Washington down the line. And then if you lost them, you really are – it's Utah's league at that point, right?
Yes.
And great for Utah, but congratulations, you've come full circle at Utah. You're now in the Mountain West Plus.
Right.
This is what you've done. It's come back around again. And TV is going to reflect that.
Yep.
So I think it's a money question. And I think the Buffs financially need to get – again, you can see the conundrum logically when you hear that. And you go, the Buffs need to get on TV on the East Coast, in West Virginia, in Ohio, and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to be where the eyeballs are. You go,
right.
Oh, absolutely. basketball, although hoops, they've been fine. Actually, hoops has been pretty good.
Right.
But a lot of it had to do with hiring Ted Boyle, not moving to the Pac-12. CU became a hoop school in the last decade, which is weird. So, yeah, the eyeballs are where you are, my friend.
Right.
But the alumni money and donations are where the In-N-Out burgers are.
Yeah.
And that's a West Coast fast food chain, as y'all know. So, yes, and I should make this a parallel. The Checkers, you guys got Checkers?
Yes. Yeah. I don't have, there's not one here, but they are in the East. Yes.
Is Crystal or Checkers bigger where you are?
Where I'm at, Crystal's a little bigger, but
there we go.
Yeah.
I used to live in Crystal. I know fast food everywhere, man. I'm a fat son of a gun. So it's like your eyeballs are in Crystal territory.
Yeah.
But your football talent's in Crystal territory. But all your money is where the In-N-Outs are.
Right.
And I'm making a shrug. And they can make that argument either side, but I think the business argument, given and total ramble with this, is the Big 12 because of that $11 million difference, isn't it? I mean, isn't it?
You'd think so, and especially like you mentioned earlier with the streaming piece, if it's going to be mostly streaming, that just adds a whole nother challenge for George Kliavkoff and that Pac-12 leadership. How do they avoid that? That's going to be a big piece of this, in my opinion.
I don't know that they can. Now, the Big 12 deal has streaming too.
It does. It does.
Where it's like, y'all are going to have to, get your Roku's out and learn how to use ESPN Plus for some of this.
Right.
But we're all kind of going there anyway to some degree.
Right.
It's what percentage.
Yep.
And the other X factor in this is how long is Deion Sanders really going to be here? And I know you want to segue to that too.
Yeah.
And you can play. Basically, this is what's hilarious to me. Buff football may never have more power and sex appeal than it has right now.
Yeah.
This moment. We're fresh in the honeymoon. They've already done the spring game, sold out on ESPN. They're everybody's darling. Anything Deion does moves the needle. If Deion goes 3-9, and look at that schedule, and 3-9 is a lot more likely than 9-3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
It's a half new roster, but the roster that stayed isn't that great. And their September is great TV and rough for a football coach. If they're bad, but with charm and flair, I heard someone describe it to me this way. They said Deion Sanders was not quite a lose-lose, but you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you lose, say you're 6-18 in 2 years, you truly are broken and nobody can fix this. And yikes, and away you go. If he goes 18-6, I'm throwing out numbers to be 20.
Yeah.
18-10. I'm doing the math badly.
That's fine. No worries.
18-6, 9-3, 9-3. What's going to happen then? I can tell you who's going to call him. Everybody with money.
Yep. Absolutely.
State is, and he knows it.
Yeah.
Okay, I should let you walk me into the Deion segue because we're on 25 minutes. That's a whole nother 25. I know.
Yeah.
But that's the other X factor in this. Where we're talking about the Bucks, the Big 12, is they've got to get what they can get now. They are the hot hand at the table, and that will change. And so this is their window to leverage and negotiate as a university, as an athletic department, because I think that leverage is going to go away.
Right. Great point. Great point. And real quick, segue to Deion and the expectations for the 2023 season. What are the reasonable expectations of the fan base for this upcoming season?
I think they'll be the best covered 4 to 6 win team in the country. But I think fans would love 5 and 7, if that makes sense. Given that they're probably going to be 2 and 4, I'll you could call that schedule up, and I think I'll do it off the top of my head. I may have the last 2 wrong. At TCU, home to Nebraska. Toss-up, got to get that one. Let's give them a win on that one. Home to Colorado State, they'll beat them. Lord help them if they don't. And then their first 2 Pac-12 games are, I'm going to mix up the order, but they're Oregon and USC. And I think SC is here and Oregon's on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So that feels like 2-4 to me. I don't know, or 2-3. Did I do the math right on that? That feels like 2-3 right out of the chute. So, and that's assuming you beat Nebraska at home.
Right.
Or TCU has fallen just off a cliff and it was all Max Duggan and yada yada. But I think they'd take anything more than 4 wins and be happy, to answer your question.
Wow.
I don't think Prime would be happy.
Right.
And I was fascinated to see how he would coach a 4-8 football team. I'm not saying I'd like it because he could be a prickly son of a gun, but I'd be fascinated to see how he reacts.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be must-see TV either way, right? Whether he's 4-8 or 8-4 or 12-0 or 0-12. That's what's so crazy about this whole situation.
You are going to care in West Virginia what Deion Sanders does because he's Deion Sanders.
Yep.
I would watch him if he were at Pitt.
Yeah.
Not picking that up because he's fighting Pat Narduzzi, but that's a great example. Not to bring up the evil rival there, but that's an example where what he does is news, and it just happens to be here, and he just happened to pick here because it was rock bottom, and they said, whatever you want. They changed the transfer rules for him. They've got the most expensive coaching staff they've ever had. They've got a $900,000 offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. They've never had that. They've got bonuses that can make $1 million coordinators. They've never had that. They gave him as blank a check as they could write, which brings us back to our first question.
Right.
They go, hey, I think someone's telling them we need to take the best 5-year money package we can take because unless Florida State or the Dallas Cowboys, just to be hypothetical, give us a gigantic buyout to take him off our hands, this guy's going to get expensive, and we've got to weigh the cost benefits of keeping versus losing him.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. And then, a lot of people were talking about how they don't understand how a coach could have this much power, in conference realignment negotiations. But I'm like, there's never been a coach like Deion Sanders ever.
No.
So
it is like a Kardashian coaching your team. There are TV cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll see me at some point looking like Jack Black. See guy with glasses who looks like Jack Black from the video games.
Yeah.
Which I love since I'm a little younger than him, and I love Red Dead Redemption 2. Who doesn't? And well, my wife doesn't, but that's one. Yeah, it's we have already been close to signing NDAs, and CU staffers have signed non-disclosure agreements about what they have seen and what is involving this TV show. It is wild here, man. It is unprecedented, and I need to get that book deal sorted out because it's a novel waiting to happen.
There you go. Well, I know you're probably pushing against the time, I'm assuming. So I really appreciate you coming on and doing this. I'd love to do it again sometime, maybe at some point during the season or something, or right before the season starts, maybe. I'd love to have you on again, and I really appreciate you. Real quick before you go, where can my listeners find you at, Sean?
Where can they find me? I'm on Twitter at Sean Keeler, Irish Scottish spelling, although I'm more Scottish than Irish. SeanKeeler. You can find me at denverpost.com/sports. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and like Coach Prime, I ain't hard to find.
That's right. There you go. And by the way, guys, he just did a recent article about Joel Klatt and some comments he made about Colorado and their future. I'm going to link to that in the description of the video and the podcast. So everybody check that article out. It was well done. So Sean, again, thank you for your time today, and safe travels to you, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Have to be good.
Take care. Bye-bye.